of Iowa football's mainstays along the offensive line is leaving the sport. Not really being talked about a whole lot. We're going to delve into it in just a second. But first, a reminder to hit the subscribe button on this channel below this video. Please hit the like button, the thumbs up button as well. Helps the channel to grow, helps get this video spread as well. So appreciate all the support. But yes, the news, and I know it's not breaking news. This is information that was recently relayed from head coach Kirk Ferentz, confirmed through a press release on the Iowa football spring prospectus. Cody Ince, offensive lineman Cody Ince, leaving the sport. He'll be graduating, according to Kirk Ferentz, he'll be graduating in May and walking away from a sport that, man, you had to think a year or two ago Cody had a chance to play at the next level, but this is the reality of football and injuries catching up to you. And, you know, I don't think Kirk really ever confirmed that it was injury related, but certainly Cody has dealt with a number of injuries since he's been here. Best wishes to Cody. But what does it mean for Iowa along that offensive line and depth? We obviously know Iowa lost Tyler Linderbaum, one of the best centers to ever play at Iowa. He will be likely hearing his name in the first round of the NFL draft coming up later this month. Kyler Schott, another guy who could have come back, decided not to. We don't know if he was ever really offered a spot this year. He is gone. So that leaves you with a semi-experienced line. Let's take a look at the depth along the offensive line. A lot of young talent here. And you see I've got this kind of color-coded. The 5 players on the left in green, the bright green, are the 5 starters, at least according to the spring prospectus and the depth chart that was released in accord with that spring prospectus. So Mason Richman listed as your starting left tackle, a sophomore. Justin Britt, it's his time to shine as Iowa's starting left guard. Tyler Ellsbury is listed as your starting center. More on that in a moment. Connor Colby, your right guard. Of course, he played admirably last year as a true freshman. Jack Plum, another guy who needs to step up, listed as your right tackle. Now, the guys below those 5, the ones on the left at the bottom in blue, those are players that are on the depth chart as reserves. David Davidkov, promising young guy, redshirt freshman, got injured, hurt most of last year. He's on the depth chart. Bo Stevens, another guy who came in during that 21 class. Matt Fagan. Logan Jones switches over to center as, Matt Fagan also playing center. So those two will battle. Josh Volk, Nick DeYoung. We know Nick DeYoung got a lot of time at right tackle last year, struggled much of the year. So those are the guys. A lot of names here to sort through on the depth chart because you lost 3. You lost 3 with Schott, Linderbaum, and now Ince. So looking at the right side here, you see 3 more guys that are not on the depth chart but are scholarship players for Iowa. Michael Myslinski, we know, we've heard reports that he has been banged up. Jennings Dunker, another guy that came in during that 21 class. Tyler Indris from Norwalk. He is also on the roster. All right, the 2 guys in purple, those are your true freshmen coming in this fall. They have not enrolled early. They will be here this fall. Cale Crow from Huxley, Jack Dotzler from Wisconsin. They are true tackles, but they'll be here this fall. Jeremy Chaplin, those 3 guys, Jeremy Chaplin, Asher Fahey, and Clayton Thurm. Those guys are all walk-ons on the roster this spring, so they're competing right now, which is good because you need bodies in there this spring, especially as guys get banged up. So overall takeaways from a look at the depth, a look at the offensive line roster, if you will. I mentioned it during that little rundown. It's time for Jack Plum and Justin Britt to step up. And those might be the 2 guys that if you're Iowa, you're probably calling on the most. I mean, you'd love to see David Davidkov and Jennings Dunker, and certainly if Michael Myslinski can get healthy, and he's going to compete for reps at the center spot. But you need your older guys to play like seniors. And I know Britt's not technically a senior, but this is his 4th year. He needs to step up and really take hold of that starting role, as does Jack Plum. I thought Plum struggled last year. Might have been Iowa's second best tackle behind Mason Richman because Nick DeYoung did not have a great year. Plum needs to step up. Now, with that being said, I've touted for the last year that I've thought Iowa had great personnel along that offensive line. People were calling for Kirk to go to the transfer portal months ago, and I've never really felt like that was really needed. Now, it would have been great to grab Hunter Norzad from Cornell. I know he's now at Penn State. Iowa made a push for him to be a tackle. He ends up going to State College. Iowa, no connections that I'm aware of right now in the portal. Now, they may look for somebody after spring passes, and I'm sure there'll be more guys nationally that will enter the portal once spring practice for all these schools is complete. But the point is, I like the personnel from 21. Again, you've got from that 21 class, you've got Michael Muslinski, Jennings Dunker, you've got Connor Colby, David Cobb, and Bo Stevens. So that's what, 1, 2, 3 guys that have shown up on the depth chart already during their redshirt freshman spring. So that's a good sign for talent. But your older guys got to step up. And Nick DeYoung now he's an older guy. He is an older guy now. And Connor Colby is going to be have to play like an older guy as a true sophomore. But he might be their best offensive lineman as a true sophomore. So in a sense, it's a young line. I know some of the hype around this offensive line, or the talk around this offensive line so far, has been who will be the center, because there have been a number of names tossed out there. We know Logan Jones switched over from defensive line to center. He's going to be in the running. Certainly Matt Fagan, walk-on, is going to be in the running. He showed up a lot on the depth chart last year. Tyler Ellsbury, and then once Michael Muslinski gets healthy, you'd have to think he'll compete. Mason Richmond seems to have that left tackle spot solidified, locked down. We mentioned Britt. Connor Colby on the right guard spot. You'd have to think they're comfortable with him there. There's been talk about him moving outside, but right now they want to keep him put. And then again, Jack Plum / Nick DeYoung. I think that's probably going to be one of the more tight battles this spring, is that battle for starting right tackle. Again, depth is okay right now, but losing Cody Ince, I don't think we can understate how big of a loss that is. Ince would have been a senior, and he did have a really good 2020. Struggled last year with injuries and struggled a bit with performance when he did play. Had a really good 2020, albeit in a year where a lot of teams were disheveled because of the pandemic. You're going to get some help this fall with Cale Crow and Jack Dotzler at those tackle positions, although Ince is an inside guy anyways. But I do think Iowa's okay on the interior. And don't be surprised if they do go after somebody in the spring via the transfer portal. You never know, because there are going to be there's guys out there right now that are high major prospects that have started at Power 5 schools. Not saying Iowa's going to go after them, but there are guys in the portal right now not participating in spring practice, and there will be more that enter once spring is complete.